Yep, so the War Memorial always loves people to come and visit Canberra, but we also have a massive web presence, and we've got an enormous collection, and we've got treasures in that collection that really we want to make available on our website for people to use. So Anzac Connections is the War Memorial's major web digitisation initiative for the centenary, which is this year, the centenary of the First World War. And we've been working on this project for many years and will continue to do so into the next coming years as well. The War Memorial has about reaching 1 million pages of records on our website of all shapes and sizes. But until recently, we didn't have any of one of the most amazing collections, which are the letters and diaries of the First World War on our site. So letters and diaries written by people who served in the First World War. It's a collection that takes you all the way back to that time when people were there. You can get an eyewitness account. Those people are no longer with us. So for what is there now is their record. The collection ranges from the voices of average people who just went over there and did their thing, like the Allen brothers, two brothers here who served. It's actually very sad because they both were killed by a shell on the same day. And I look at that collection and there's a photograph in there and you can see the family there, the mum and the two sisters. And also there's their letters at home talking about their experiences, and then what every family of the First World War dreaded, which was getting that pink telegram telling them that their son, husband was killed. So it's a collection that brings you back to that time and helps us remember and also learn what people experienced. The collections are very easy to access and read, so I'm going to ask you all after this to go home and have a look. You just go to the War Memorial's website and you click on Collection, and you can search your way through to Monash or Simpson and have a look at what they had to say. Simpson collection's very interesting. So much has been written about Simpson. He, ordinary merchant seaman that became a legend of the First World War. But do we really know who this person is? And the only way really to get a sense of who this person was is to actually read what he said in his own words. It's actually a beautiful collection. Simpson was travelling and working his way around Australia during the First World War, and what he writes about, he was very close to his mother and sister, and he wrote regularly to them, and he writes about Australia on the eve of the First World War, what the mood was like, what people were doing. He says Australians are mad to enlist. It's also an unusual collection because a lot of soldiers were unable, due to the circumstances of being a soldier, of keeping the letters that were sent from home. But Simpson's letters from his mother and sister survive, so you actually get a two-way conversation, and his mother's writing to him about, she says things like, we're in a terrible state here, if the Germans get into England, like they have in Belgium, they're going to treat us worse. So she writes quite distressed letters to him while he's in Australia, and not long after receiving those letters, you can see that he's enlisted, and later on there's some letters sent from Cairo saying, I can't believe I'm in Cairo. He said something like, there's some pyramids there. He's really despondent because what he wanted to do, his plan was to enlist. And he says this in one of his letters, if I had have known I was going to Cairo, I would have worked my own passage home back to England, had a holiday, and then enlisted on the Western Front, which is where he wanted to be, considering his home is in that vein. At the heart of the War Memorials digitisation project is preservation. So there's two main factors. One is broad access, so that everybody, you don't have to travel to Canberra to read these collections, but the other side of it is preservation. Preservation means these collections are 100 years old. They are pretty stable in their paper format if we don't love them to death. Turn the pages, look at them. Now these collections, before they're digitised online, are open to the public for research. For some collections, like this collection, Ian Idris, who he was a sniper at Gallipoli and became a very well-known writer in the post-war period. I think he put out a novel a year for his life, pretty much, after the war, massively prolific. But you could see his talent in writing already in his diaries of a 19-year-old boy. They are engaging, interesting, informative. So if I'm writing about the light horse and I'm a researcher, I'd probably like to use Ian Idris because he describes it so well. The trouble is, before we digitise this collection, at any one time you'd find his collections out on hold to somebody using them for research. Now you can imagine the pressure on that collection. So pretty much the collections we've digitised online are there to save them, and they're the collections most used by people for research. So Simpson, Ian Idris, but we also throw in representative collections, people that have described the landing in a particular way, or things that they have to say. So we've got 4,500 whole collections related to people from the First World War. That's not just a letter or a diary. It's somebody in a whole collection could have 4 diaries, 50 letters, ticket stubs, concert and theatre programs, all that kind of thing. So whole collections are what we digitise. We don't just pick out little bits and pieces of it. And that's also preservation too, because if we're only making one letter available out of a whole collection, it doesn't stop anybody from saying, well, I need to look at the rest of it. Our main aim is to also make these collections available online in a permanent, linkable way. So you'll see that the URLs are really short and memorable, and you can send them off on an email. You can say to somebody, here's this one, and if you link to it from your website, it's not going to change. So it's very permanent URLs. We also have a very simple display, hopefully intuitive to use. And for this Monash collection, there's 10,000 pages tucked away here, but as you go in, you'll see that you can find your way around it. It has to be better to use than the original, and that's our aim with these. That's an interesting page out of the Monash collection. So Monash planned the Battle of Hamel in 1918, and he predicted that battle would go for 90 minutes. He was a success. He was a meticulous planner, Monash, and you can see that in this collection here. That battle went for 93 minutes and was highly successful. So you can see that the planning of that operation in the papers that are online. You can also see that he also had a prime ministerial visit while he's also trying to plan a battle. So you get an insight into the person's life and what other things are going on around them at the time that they're doing that battle, or at the time that the Prime Minister's visiting, he's also planning a battle. So or writing to his wife about something. So there's all kinds of interesting looks and takes into a person. The Monash collection, by the way, is another one that was perpetually on hold to researchers in the Memorials collection. Oh, look at that, what is that? So one of the things when people come to our site is they're really looking for a person, aren't they? They're looking for a person and everything we hold about that person, because often it's their relative or somebody that they're after. And so one of the main things the Memorial's interested in doing is making it easier to find the person you're after. Now, the First World War is a very difficult one because names aren't unique. And also during the First World War, they decided to make service numbers not unique. Once that happens, you're going to need more than 1 or 2 pieces of data to find out who your John Smith is. The Memorial's been digitising collections for over 10 years. How we started was just index around a digital asset, like an embarkation roll or a nominal roll or the roll of honour circular cards. So you index the names, unit of the person, all in flat tables. So when they presented on our site, they were, you could go to the embarkation roll and search it, you could go to the roll of honour and search it. A, you had to know where we were tucking this away on our site. B, you had to keep going into different databases to find your person. So one of the developments we've made is we've tried to link people via the machine out through our search. So that would be the best way to get in now, is to go in via search, unless you're an old hand, and we still have all the other sites available. And it gives you a sense of where all the roles that we indexed are. It all comes out now, so you don't have to know, you don't have to be in the know to find the embarkation role on our site. This is the other thing we're doing. You might have seen, that people thing with all the branches. We're trying to pull all the data we have related to individuals on our site into a presentation. So this is Monash, so there's a biography that was written about 11 years ago, this biography. It's been on our site that long. The person who wrote it's long gone, but anyway, when we merged all these collections and presented in this way, all of a sudden people saying, oh no, I don't think that's the right thing to say about Monash. We got all this extra attention around Monash. So one of the things about doing this is that you bring out things that are there on the site that you can find more easily. Here we go, there's all Monash's roles and awards, and he's got, more than his fair share, being so active in the war. All the collections, he was a meticulous planner and also an obsessive collector. He collected everything. His papers that we have everything from his shopping list through to his plannings for major battles. So it's a very interesting collection, but also across the board at the memorial, the things that we hold for Monash are incredibly broad, but you can find it here drawn together. And there's data just pulled together from all parts of our site. All right, how can you be involved? One of the things with these digitised images they're flat. You can't, it's just a photo. So there's words like, this was written, sneaked and cribbed by Frank Crosley. Who is Frank Crosley? If I did a search, unless this is catalogued and Frank Crosley's name's entered, I'm not going to find Frank Crosley. One of the things we are attempting to do here is create the ability for the public who are interested in enhancing our collections to go online and actually transcribe all the data in letters and diaries, ephemera and war diaries, all our written collections, to make that text searchable. And that's how it looks. You can just type it in there. So this is available in about a month. We've already built it, but we're looking for a time to put it out. I think in about December 19th is our penciled in date. But what you'll be able to do is, and it might just be your own family you're researching, you might want to bring out those collections digitally, or you might have a favourite topic. You might be into the Anzac Coves, who are a concert and theatre company they were diggers from the First World War who tried to raise morale by putting on performances. This makes this collection not only socially useful for military history, but just say if I'm doing a study on Dick Whittington and his cat, and I want to find everything in any institution on Dick Whittington and his cat, here we go, it's now there and it's now available, and you can find it because it's searchable text. And you can also subject tag it. So, the Anzac Coves were part of the 23rd Australian Infantry Battalion. You might not have been able to figure that out. You might be interested in the battalion. What concerts did the Australian 23rd Infantry Battalion see? It helps flesh out your own understanding. Just say if your relative served in that unit, oh right, that's something they might have experienced. So the public can do the subject tagging. These are very clean pieces of data, input as subjects, so that one of the things with indexing is, think of the possibilities, 23rd Australian Infantry Battalion, 23 RD, BN, 23 Battalion. All those things won't become searchable unless you tell either the machine that they're the same thing, or you standardise and clean your data so that you can play with it in the back and make a very nice clean set, so that if anybody types in 23rd Battalion, they'll get everything for that unit. So we're trying to sort of create very clean searches for people so you can find everything that you need to find. John Croft's diary, there you go, there's text in there, hard to read, light pencil. We're seeking this kind of transcription help. Younger generation can't hardly read handwriting these days, so we get a lot of people coming to research saying, I only want the ones with transcripts, and it means these collections are lost in time. That tear in that diary is actually a bullet hole. So this diary saved John Croft's life on the 25th of April. It's a very interesting diary because it's got, yes, you see it at the front, you know, I get this image that he would have been given it at his farewell, you know, here's, you know, from your friends, have a great trip overseas, and they've signed their names. So the possibility of bringing out the friends' names are here as well. You know, we can't possibly at the War Memorial index every name and every piece of text in the collection. When you open it up to everyone, what you're creating is a massive resource. We also, look, we had a volunteer since 1993 identifying Indigenous service at the memorial by name, and it was all in paper file. She's 86 years old, and she's been working with us as a volunteer for many years. She came to me and said, can you do anything with this? And she said she had all this research. And when I went over and saw on her desk she had about 3 metres of paper files, and I just looked and went, oh my God, all right, we'll have a think about what we can do with this. We got some other volunteers to help us index her paper files, and then we merged them into what we have existing in the collection, and then creating this list on our site. We've identified over 1,000 Indigenous Australians in the First World War. We've got about 806 now on our website, but we're still going, so it's an ongoing thing. We're just adding the names here, but we'll probably do a bit more with them later. At the moment, you just park them here for availability, and you know, it's there for people's research. They look like this too. So this is Charles Blankman. He was a very early enlister, and he has a private record collection. He has a collection of letters and diaries. So we've merged who he is, all his roles, and his letters and diaries. That's a very rare collection. We've got, as I mentioned, 4,500 collections of First World War diaries, only one in the collection written by an identified Indigenous person, and it's very, very useful insight into that particular experience. Here's our clean data. Look at that, I'm so proud of it. I must subject you all to it. And this is weird, but what this says is, this is metadata, and where we're headed with this metadata is we're publishing it on our website, and it allows other institutions to absorb all our metadata and display our collections on their site with a link back through to our site. So we're broadening the availability of collections. We're hoping to do something very soon with the State Library of New South Wales, because they've got a massive collection of diaries on their website digitised. Make that reciprocal availability so that people can easily travel between institutions. The National Archives of Australia hold the personal service records of Australians who served. It would be very easy and handy to get from the War Memorial site over to archives and back again without getting lost. So that's where we're heading with that.